I'm going to show you how to create a vertical two-color stripe with double knitting. The first step is to just take your working yarn and lace the loom, starting with the first peg on the opposite side and moving in a zigzag fashion across the loom, just like we did for regular knit stitches. But this time, when you get to the end, you'll just leave that yarn there and you'll bring in your new color of yarn and you'll make a slip knot, leaving a nice long tail. Put the slip knot on the contrast color peg, the opposite end of the loom. And then you'll start lacing back, starting with the first peg on the side that's closest to you, going to the second peg on the opposite side, zigzagging all the way down. When you get to the end of the row, you should have 2 loops on each peg. Once we've gotten to the end of the row, we're just going to knit the stitches the same as for double knitting. So you're just going to pull the bottom loop up over the top for each peg all the way down to the end of the row. Once you get to the end of the row, you'll turn the loom around and do the same exact thing on the other side. Just lifting the bottom loop over the top loop. So I'm just turning the loom back around to do the next row of stitches. Now I'm going to go back and we're going to wrap, keeping the colors the same. So instead of starting with the first peg, we'll wrap the yarn around the second peg and zigzag all the way down. Once you get to the end of the row, you'll pick up your second color, start wrapping around the second peg on the opposite side. You want to make sure that you have the same color yarn on the same peg. There should not be 2 different colors on each peg. And just zigzagging all the way down. Once again, you should have 2 loops on each peg, the same color on each peg. Once you've finished lacing that row, you should have 2 loops on every peg except for the first peg of each row. So this peg only has 1 loop, and this peg on the other side only has 1 loop. Now that you've finished lacing your next row, you'll go ahead and do the same knit stitch, but skipping the first peg, starting with the second peg, in the same motion of lifting the bottom loop over the top loop. Once you get to the end of the row, you might need to hold on to that yarn just to keep it from slipping away. You'll turn the loom around to the other side. You may need to hold on to that last yarn just to keep it in place while you pull the bottom loop over the top. And you do that for each peg all the way down. And you won't need to knit the last peg. That only has 1 loop on it. Now that we've finished our first row of stripes, we keep working the yarn in the same manner, making sure to keep 2 loops of the same color on each peg. It's really just that easy.